Daf Yomi, Higi Aziman, Daf Yomi, Daf Yomi, Daf Yomi, Higi Azman, Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 12. And starting from the Gemara on the bottom of 11b, with the words Hechi Dami Chutzala. Hechi Dami Chutzala, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Mishum Rabbi Chanina, Kegon, Itiloza shel Aza, V'ika de Amri, Ba'e Mina, Mene Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Mid Rabbi Chanina, Itiloza shel Aza, Ma'u, Amaleh, Lo halachta litzor mimecha v'ra'iti Yisrael v'goy. Okay. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances that determine whether a place is sufficiently far from a city to be considered outside of it? Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says, in the name of Rabbi Chanina, a place that is far enough away is, for example, the bazaar of Gaza, which is located outside the city walls. And some say that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish asked Rabbi Chanina about this issue. What is the halacha with regard to the bazaar of Gaza? May one conduct business there on the day of a festival celebrated in Gaza? Rabbi Chanina said to him, Did you never in your lifetime travel to Tyre and see a Jew and a Gentile? And now we're on the top of 12a. Shishaftu shtei kederos hamna b'kira echas. A Jew and Gentile placed two pots on one stove, and yet the sages were not concerned and did not issue a prohibition with regard to the meat that was in the pot belonging to the Jew, despite the fact that the forbidden food was in close proximity to the permitted food. Similarly, in this case, as well, the sages were not concerned about the bazaar's proximity to Gaza and did not prohibit engaging in business there. The Gemara asked, what did he mean in stating the sages were not concerned with regard to the meat? And how does that case relate to the issue here? Amar Abaye, Mishum Basar Nevel Amrinan, Dil Mamahad Rabbi Yisrael Achore, Mishari Goy Nevel Bagdera, Nechavadea, Venamilocha Shulahem Chachamim Mishum, Damid Avodah Zarah. Abaye said the sages were not concerned with regard to the possibility of eating the meat of an unslaughtered animal carcass. We do not say cooking it in this manner is prohibited, since perhaps the Jew will turn his face, and at that moment the Gentile will throw meat of an animal carcass into his pot. So too, here too, in the corresponding situation, although the permitted and prohibited places are in close proximity, the sages were not concerned about engaging in business transactions in the bazaar of Gaza, even due to the possibility that money associated with idol worship would end up in the hands of the Jews. If the money were for the purchase of an animal used as an offering for idolatry, those coins would be prohibited by Torah law. Nevertheless, the sages were not concerned about this possibility, just as they were not concerned that the Gentile might add his meat to the Jew's pot. Rava Amar, Mai lo chashu lahem chachamim mishum mishulei goyim. Rava said that there is a different explanation. The sages were not lenient in the face of a potential violation of Torah law, but were lenient in a case where it was rabbinic law that might be violated. As for Rabbi Chanina's comparison to pots in Tyre, there is no concern that a Gentile might throw his meat into the pot of the Jew, as he would derive no benefit from doing so, and would be afraid that the Jew might see him. By contrast, here the Gentile is engaged in business. Rather, what is it that the sages were not concerned about in the case of the pots. Although the Gentile is cooking food next to the Jew, there is no concern with regard to the possibility that the Gentile might cook the Jew's food, causing the latter to violate the rabbinic prohibition against eating food cooked by Gentiles. Rava concludes, here too, in the corresponding situation, it is referring to a case where the coins were the Gentiles' own money. The sages were not concerned about engaging in business transactions in the Bazaar of Gaza, even due to the possibility that the Jew might be engaging in business with residents of Gaza on their festival day, which would be a violation of rabbinic law. Rabba bar Ulama lo chashu lahem chachamim mishum tzinora. Rabba bar Ula says even if the concern in the case of the pot applied only to the Gentile cooking the Jew's food, not the consumption of the non-kosher meat, with regard to the bazaar, the halacha would not be comparably lenient. The reason is the Jew need only stir the coals once to ensure that the food in his pot is not considered cooked by a Gentile, an option that does not apply here. Rather, in the case mentioned by Rabbi Chanina, the sages were not concerned with regard to the possibility that food might splatter from the Gentile's pot into the Jew's pot. This is an especially lenient case, both because this is an unlikely possibility and because that small amount of food would be nullified by a majority of the Jews' food. Rabbi bar Ula concludes here too, in the corresponding situation, the sages were not concerned about engaging in business transactions in the Bazaar of Gaza with regard to the days before the festival of Gaza. This is an analogous case to that of the splattered food, as it is outside the festival of both time and place. Tanu Rabbanan ir sheyesh ba Avodah Zarah asur likanes letocha velo mitocha al ir acheres divrei Rabbi Meir v'chachamim אומרים כל זמן שהדרך מיוחדת לא יעשה מקום אסור אין הדרך מיוחדת לא יעשה מקום מותר. The Mishnah teaches what is the halacha with regard to traveling there, a place that is celebrating a pagan festival. If the road leads only to that place, it is prohibited. But if the road leads to another place as well, it is permitted. In this connection, the Gemara cites a related Braita. The sages taught, in the case of a city in which there is active idol worship, meaning its residents are worshiping their idol on that day, it is prohibited to enter the city, and one may not leave it for another city. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir, and the rabbis say, as long as the road is designated only for that place, it is prohibited to enter the city. But if the road is not designated for only that place, it is permitted. Yashav lo kotz bifnei avodah zarah lo yishche v'itlena מפני שנראה כמשתחווה לעבודה זרה, ואם אינו נראה מותר, נספזרו לו מרתף, מפני עבודה זרה, לא ישחה ויתלם, מפני שנראה כמשתחווה לעבודה זרה, אם אינו נראה מותר. The Braita continues, if a thorn became embedded in one's foot, ouch, while he was standing before an object of idol worship, he may not bend down and remove the thorn, because he appears to be bowing down to the object of idol worship. But if he is not seen, it is permitted. If one's coins were scattered while he was before an object of idol worship, he may not bend down and pick them up, because he appears to be bowing down to the object of idol worship. But if he is not seen, it is permitted. Me'ayin המושך לפני עבודה זרה, לא ישכה וישתה, מפני שנראה כאילו משתחווה לו זרה. ואם אינו נראה, מותר פרצופות המקלחין מים לכרכים, לא יניח פיו על פיהם וישתה, מפני שנראה כבנשק לעבודה זרה. כיוצא בו לא יניח פיו על סילון וישתה, מפני הסכנה. Likewise, if there is a spring that runs before an object of idol worship, one may not bend down and drink from it, because he appears to be blowing down to the object of idol worship. But if he is not seen, it is permitted. With regard to figures of human faces, parsufot, that spray water in the cities, fountains, one may not place his mouth on the mouths of the figures and drink, because he appears to be kissing the object of idol worship. Similarly, one may not place his mouth on a pipe and drink, here due to the danger that this practice poses. The Gemara asks, what does the Braita mean when it says, if he is not seen? If we say it means that he's not seen by others, doesn't our Yehuda say that Rav says whenever the sage is prohibited in action due to the appearance of prohibition, it is prohibited even the innermost chambers where no one will see it. And the sages did not distinguish between different circumstances in such cases. Accordingly, the fact that he is not seen by anyone should make no difference with regard to whether or not the action is prohibited. Rather say, if he is not seen as one who bows down to an object of idol worship, he turns aside or back to the idol, then it is permitted. Okay, the Gemara comments, and it is necessary for the Braita to list all of these cases, notwithstanding their similarity. As if it had taught only the case of the thorn, one might have thought that bending down to remove a thorn is prohibited because it is possible to walk past the figure and only then take out the thorn. But in the case of coins, where it is not possible to put them elsewhere, you might say that it is not prohibited to pick them up. Dimamona aval kot Zarah emalo. Itana hani tardim mishum duleka sakana aval me'ayin ika sakana di lo shatim ma'it emalo tzricha. And furthermore, if the Braisa had taught only the case of coins, one might have thought that the reason for the stringent ruling is that the loss is purely financial. In the case of the thorn, which causes him pain, you might say that it is not prohibited to remove it. And finally, if the Braita taught only these two cases, one might have thought that they are prohibited because there is no danger if the action is not performed on the spot. But in the case of the spring, where there is an element of danger, that if he does not drink the water, he might die, one could say that it is not prohibited. Therefore, it is necessary to state each example. And now we turn to 12b, top of the page, with the word partsufot. Partsufot lamali, mishum degabai lemesne keyotzbo, lo yaniach piv al gabi hasilon v'ishte mipnei hasakana. The Gemara asks, why do I need the Braita to teach that it is prohibited to drink from fountains formed in the figure of human faces? If the reason is to teach the halacha in a life-threatening situation, the Braita already addressed this issue in the case of the spring. The Gemara answers it was included because the Braita wanted to teach the continuation of that halacha. Similarly, one may not place his mouth on a pipe and drink due to the danger that this poses. Mai sakana aluka. Tanu Rabbanan. Lo yishte adam mayim, lo min ha'naharos, velo min ha'agamim, velo b'piv, velo b'yado achas, im shata damo b'rosho, mipnei ha'sakana. Mai sakana, sakanat aluka. The Gemara inquires, what danger is the Braita referring to here? It is referring to the danger of swallowing a leech in the water. As the sages taught, a person should not drink water from rivers or from ponds, either by drinking from the water directly with his mouth or by collecting the water with one hand alone. And if he drank in this manner, his blood is upon his own hand due to the danger. But the Gemara explains what is the danger. It is the danger of swallowing a leech. מסייע לרבי חנינא, תיאום רבי חנינא הבולע נימה של מים. מותר להכן לא חמין בשבת. מעשה אחד שבלע. נימה של מים, והתיר רבי נחמיה להכן לא חמין בשבת. עד הכי והכי אמר רב הונא ברד רבי יהושע ליגמה חלה. This supports the opinion of Rabbi Chanina, as Rabbi Chanina says, in the case of one who swallows a water leech, a nima, it is permitted to perform labor on Shabbat and heat water for him to drink on Shabbat, as his life is in danger. And in fact, there was an incident involving one who swallowed a water leech, and Rabbi Nechemia permitted them to heat water for him on Shabbat. The Gemara asks, in the meantime, until the water is ready, what should he do? Rav Huna, son of Rabbi Yehoshua, said he should swallow vinegar. Amar Rav Idi bar Avin, Hai man dibara zibua, michaya lo chaye, mihu leshaker viata dechala. Shamgaz, Efshar dechaye purta ad dimafkid abeite. Rabbi Idi bar Avin said, one who swallowed a hornet will not live, as the hornet will sting him to death. Nevertheless, they should give him a quarter log of sharp vinegar to drink. Shamgaz. In this manner, it is possible that he will live for a bit longer, until he can instruct his household with regard to his final wishes before dying. Tanu abana lo yishta damayim melayla im shata dama b'rosho mipnei hasakana. My sakana, sakanat shavrire bimtzache my tekante I yikachlina behade litre v'lemele tzachena maya ila nakare likarkesh benichtema achatzba v'nei ma'ihu lenafshe Plania bar Plania amralach imach iz dahar mishavrire brire rire yire re bechasa the sages taught a person should not drink water at night. And if he drank, his blood is upon his own head due to the danger. The Gemara asks, what is the danger? The Gemara answers, the danger of the shavrire is an evil spirit that rules over water. And if he is thirsty, what is his remedy? If there's another person with him, he should wake him and say to him, I thirst for water, and then he may drink. And if there is no other person with him, he should knock with the lid on the jug and say to himself, so-and-so, son of so-and-so, your mother said to you to beware of the shavrire, vrire, rire, yire, found in white cups. This is an incantation against the evil spirit. Okay. Mishnah. עיר שיש בה עבודה זרה והיו בה חנויות מאותרות ושאינן מאותרות זה היה מעשה בבייס שען ואמרו חכמים המאותרות אסורות ושאינן מאותרות מותרות. With regard to a city in which idol worship is practiced and in which there are stores that are adorned for the sake of idol worship, and there are others that are not adorned. This was, in fact, an incident that occurred in Beth Sha'an. And the sages said, with regard to the adorned shops, it is prohibited to buy from them, but in the case of those that are not adorned, it is permitted. That's the Mishnah, and the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Lo yishanu ela benutoros, בוורד והדס דקרא מהנמריך אבל מאותרוס בפירוס מותרוס מאי תימא דמקרא לא ידבק בידך מאומה מן החרב נהנה הוא דאסור. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says they taught that buying is prohibited only in the case of stores that are adorned with roses and myrtle, as one derives benefit from their smell, and they serve as offerings to objects of idol worship. But with regard to stores that are adorned with fruit, it is permitted to buy from them. What is the reason that they are permitted? As the verse states, and there shall cleave nothing dedicated to your hand. Deuteronomy 13:18. Meaning, the items dedicated to idol worship, from here it is derived that it is prohibited to derive benefit from idol worship.